Welcome back, everybody, to Recruitment Uncensored with me, Kate, the host. You all know me already. And my amazing guest today, I've got a returning guest, actually, Christina Robertson, MD of Green Umbrella. I'm trying to remember when you came on. Was it this year?
I think it was right at the beginning of this year. I think so.
Yeah,
I think so.
probably.
What's interesting to me is, so you've interviewed me once before, and you obviously learned some lessons from that, because about 20 minutes before this, half an hour before this, there's an Instagram story and Kate's like fueling up with a protein yogurt or whatever. So you obviously knew you needed to be prepared for this.
I needed a full belly. I needed to be ready to go. And we very nearly forgot to go live. This happens all the time. I say this all the time, but we had what, 30 seconds? I was like,
Yeah,
shit,
we're chatting. We'd started
just
already.
chatting away. So I'm not going to spend too long on an intro today because we both can talk and we need as much time as possible to get everything covered off for you today. But if you are watching, I would really encourage you, any questions you've got for Christina, chuck them in the comments. I'll keep an eye on it. Anything we don't get time to cover off because maybe we've ended up talking too much, we'll come and deal with it on LinkedIn afterwards, basically. But look, we're talking today about how recruiters can leverage social media more to attract talent. And the reason I wanted to get you on for this is I've been thinking a lot about this recently because I've now got the agency, and I know that social media is, I mean, for some, an untapped resource. Some people use it amazingly to get talent. And I was like, do you know what? I need schooling in this as well. And if I do, other people will. So, what I'm going to go to the first question because all three questions I think have got quite meaty answers for us today as well. But what do you find? Because we want to be strategic about this, don't we? What do you
Mhm.
find is the best strategic approach with the socials to get more candidates?
Okay, so I think it's about candidate pooling rather
Mm-hmm.
than building those talent pools. Rather than a trap that people fall into is, I've got this vacancy that needs filling, and it becomes all about that one vacancy.
Yeah.
When actually, like, we know most of the recruiters we work with are within a specific sector. They're always going to need people that, if they're if they're fulfilling marketing roles, they're always going to need that SEO person, that social media person. So
Yeah.
actually, we focus more on building the talent pools and those candidates. Like, how can we get their attention? What can we give them in order to get their attention, get them on board with us, get them in our little community? That's it. It really is. This is, I can pull out all the old things that people like me always say, social media should be social and all that kind of stuff. But it really is, the strategic approach is to build a community for your
Yeah,
candidates. If it's,
100%.
if it's we're all part of communities, whether it's in business, whether it is like, you do your high rock stuff, you go to the gym, there will be however much you choose to engage in that community or not, it's a place you keep going back to. You don't go
Yeah.
to a different gym every time you want to train. You go to that gym that makes you feel comfortable, where there's people like you there, where the conversations are around, your protein intake or whatever it might be. So how do we strategically, how do we create something that those candidates are going to want to keep coming back to? How do we feed that? And there's lots of different ways to do it. You could have a WhatsApp group that you're using social media to get all those people into that WhatsApp group. It could be that you have a whole series of resources, PDF downloads, you're doing webinars, you're doing live streams like this on a regular basis. And it's about really that social media piece becoming the home for all of that.
Yeah. Do you know what? I'm glad you said that because that is how I got, I suppose, taught in my last agency to build up that community. So I ran the graduate division of that agency. So I built up my, whether I had jobs for them or not, I was always trying to make sure I had enough candidates in all the geographies and, creating those communities. And it's how I train people. It's how I work now. That's how I'm growing my agency. So yeah, I think people get so transactional. I've got a
Mhm.
job, I need candidates. I've not got a job, I don't need candidates. You always need candidates. always.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that WhatsApp group idea as well, actually, because technically WhatsApp is socials, isn't it? You know,
Yeah,
but
yeah, absolutely. And we've got WhatsApp communities in there as well now. That so it's not just like a WhatsApp chat where there's like all sorts of shit going off left, right, and centre.
yeah,
You
yeah,
can build a community in there, and so people join the community, and you've got sort of different conversations going on for different things. So, and the great thing with it is there's no algorithm.
yeah,
Don't get me wrong. If your community is dull as hell and people are spamming the crap out of it, then yeah, people are going to like silence the notifications. But there's no
yeah.
algorithm in it. So, like I said, really, it
You need
is
to
about,
capitalize on that.
yeah. We all need to build a network. Social media allows us to build that network. We need to use it in a way that keeps people engaged, keeps them coming back, but also, again, part of that strategic approach is, okay, how do we keep them coming back? But actually, how do we get them to come one step closer to us? And whether
Yeah,
that is in a WhatsApp group, sitting in our database, whatever it might be. But if they are sitting in our database, we're using that data. Regular email campaigns, like maybe we're going to run events and invite them in. It's, all that sort of stuff.
value.
Exactly. It's value all day long.
Yeah. And I think the value piece as well shows your knowledge and expertise, but also like it helps people start to feel comfortable to build that relationship with you sometimes. And again, when it comes to candidates, that's what we want. And you use the example then for the gym community, for example, and it got me thinking, I've been going to the same gym for 11 years. Like, even
Yeah.
if I moved away down the road 20 minutes, I'd still travel to go there. And if we relate that to what we do, and we're trying to be strategic to get more candidates, referrals, all that stuff, the loyalty piece is so important, especially if you do
Yeah.
like temp recruitment, all recruitment, but like, that's when you're going to get people stay with you every time they need a role, refer people. And
Yeah. And
they feel part of a community.
there's another element to this as well. It's when someone really knows you, when they
Mm,
really know you, you show up as you.
yeah,
Not this perfect version of you. You show up as the Kate that you are. I show up as the Christina that I am, which means if my hair looks shit, it looks shit. I don't need to have a perfect face to be able to rock up. You're in the gym, you're hot and sweaty and, barely
dying.
alive sometimes, right? And it's like you get to be unapologetically you, and that attracts people to you. So again, when we're thinking about the what we're doing on social media, let's be warts and all. Let's
Mm,
let's make ourselves as accessible as possible.
yeah, yeah. So that's like, I mean, we talk about video content a lot, but yeah, that stuff like that, isn't it? Showing up in different ways. And
Yeah,
again, I
in
think
the moment.
this is where people get the socials for candidates wrong is, oh, I know, I'll post about my job that I'm working at the moment. But you can do, there's different stuff you can do and again, to attract more engagement. It might not be somebody chooses to get in contact with you as a candidate straight away, but they start to build familiarity with you and think,
Mhm.
maybe I will reach out to that recruiter or
Do you know,
refer somebody to them or whatever
um,
it is.
yeah, someone said we've all got our 12 o'clock. Okay. So 12 o'clock is the moment that something's going to happen. So lunch. Okay. We
Always for
all
me.
have lunch. I don't. I'm crap at that
You
stuff.
don't have lunch?
I know it's my PT. In fact, my PT's tried ringing me today because my nutrition's
I
off
can't
again.
even imagine a world where I feel like not eating.
I'm terrible with food. But anyway, so we all have
We're
lunch
digressing.
time. Yeah, we all have lunch. So let's say lunchtime is 12 o'clock, right? Now it might be 12, like 11:59, and you're watching for it. 12 o'clock hits, that's it, you're having your lunch. Well, for me, it could be my 12 o'clock is actually like maybe 2 o'clock in the afternoon today. Okay, so it's not about those candidates. We've just got to keep them interested, keep them hungry
Mm,
until they hit their 12 o'clock. when they're ready to take that step. And sometimes I've had leads come in on email, and it's like someone responding to, so my newsletter goes out every Friday, and it's like it's a response to an email that I sent 2 years previously.
That's mad.
And every week they get the email and they have a quick scan and they have a quick read, and it's like it's just not been 12 o'clock for them yet. But in that moment, that conversation, they're like, we need to do something like social media marketing, we need to do something about that. They don't go to Google. They literally went to their inbox, searched for Christina, and emailed me.
Do you know what I do as well, which I think a lot of people probably do? So I get an interesting email. It's not something I'm ready for right now. I keep it in my inbox. My inbox is a bit like a to-do list. And it might be I come back to it at some point when I'm ready and respond. And sometimes that is a while after, or I pick up the phone and ring the person. So yeah, it's I never thought of it like that before, actually.
Yeah. But if you think, how did that person get into my email list to begin with? Social media.
Yeah. That's a lot of the time how I get people in my email. I've got a weekly newsletter as well, and that's often how it's happened. We've engaged on LinkedIn, for example. That's my main platform for my target market. I've got their email, they're added in, and they come into another part of my world.
Yeah. And this is an interesting thing. We knew we'd digress, so I'm just going for it. Because a few days ago, you put a post on LinkedIn about email nurture sequences, and that basically, like, you've never had any success.
It was yesterday. Was yesterday Tuesday?
I think so.
Yeah, it was yesterday. I know, I'm so lost in the weeks. But yeah, I know which one you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing, like, I read that and I thought, they do bloody work. But what happens is people expect, like, let's say there's 6 emails in that sequence. They expect the magic to happen in those 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes it's like those 6 emails are so sales heavy.
And too close together sometimes, probably, as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's like I said, this whole this community building piece, we're nurturing, whether it is through your LinkedIn posts or through your email marketing. We need to nurture people. How do we nurture them? Not by selling. It's very rare that I do an email blast that is buy my shit. More often than not, I'm like, this is how often. I think last week's, I don't know what I wrote last week on the blog, but the last few weeks, there's been stuff about how to use LinkedIn better, how often you should post, what type of content works. It's like, it's all stuff to help you to be able to do this without me. But what I know is that people don't have the time to do it. That's why they come to me.
Yes.
So it is that nurture piece. It's not that strategy doesn't work. It's like, what's the content of the emails? How often are we sending them? What happens once that nurture sequence is finished? Is it that we've gone, well, I nearly said the F word.
Like, you can. It's recruitment uncensored. You can say whatever the fuck you want.
Are we basically going, well, I've sent you 6 emails and you haven't responded, so fuck you, I'm moving on? Or is it the end of the 6 weeks, we've gone, okay, well, you're not ready right now. Let's move you over here, and you're going to hear from us once a month instead, just to keep you warm. When you're ready, you'll raise your head again. So sometimes it is like we're expecting the results in the wrong place, and then getting pissed off that we didn't get them, instead of thinking, okay, right, and what else?
Yeah. Hi, Van. We've got Van watching.
Hey, Vanessa.
Interesting discussion. We've still got way more to cover off. So it's going to get even more interesting. Now, this is one I'm really interested to ask you, because obviously, and again, this goes back to the transactional thing, because a lot of recruiters as well are very transactional, active candidates only, active, 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 or even I give it 3 categories: committed, active, passive. But either way, they forget about the passive.
Yeah.
And they're really valuable to us. So what do you see are the types of content that appeal to, I mean, obviously we want the active candidates, but the passive, like, what's the difference with the two for you?
Okay, so we've talked about like giving value-based content, but what does that actually mean? So with your agency, okay, with the agency that you've just created, there are people out there that want to get into recruitment. Maybe they've just got into recruitment, they're not in the right role, people like there's not been that investment in their development, and they're sat there, but they're kind of thinking, well, I've only been here 3 months, I can't move yet. How do you give them value? Well, you give them all the tips and the tricks to help them develop themselves.
Yeah.
You know, you talk about, you know, there's loads of stuff going on in the recruitment industry right now. So there, you know, anyone that's serving the recruitment world from a back office, invoice finance perspective, like HR, legal, that sort of stuff, they're going to be talking about like that, you know, what's happened in the budget and the you know, NI changes and all that sort of stuff, because it's helping recruiters to make the decisions they need to make going forward in their business. It's helping them understand how to have conversations with clients with what's coming down the road. That's the value piece. If I'm a recruiter in tech and there is some like big awards that happens every year, I'm going to be talking about who got shortlisted, why they got shortlisted, the stories there. I'm going to be talking about the investments that are happening backwards and forwards, and what makes one business investable. And if I'm in FMCG and there's a trend of brands creating a particular type of product, I'm going to be celebrating and talking about this change and how it's such an amazing strategic move, and it's a trend that we're seeing. Because actually that's going to bring those passive candidates into my world, because although I don't give a shit about it, they do. That's how we bring value. That's how we appeal to them. Again, when they hit 12 o'clock and they're saying, all right, I'm ready to see, is the grass any greener? That's when they come back to you, because they know that you know the industry.
Yeah.
Like, you know, where I'm working right now, it's like, it's not particularly innovative. Like I'm seeing all these other companies doing these amazing things, and I want to be part of that story. I'm going to go to the recruiter who's got finger on the pulse, that's going to enable me to access those types of employers.
Yeah.
So
or if you do contact them, they're more likely to engage because they've built that familiarity with you. They respect your, you know, you're showing that they've got the interest in what you're putting out there, basically, aren't they?
Yeah. You're not just farming jobs, you know.
You're not just
now,
a recruiter.
Yeah. Now, okay, those examples, the more specialized an agency is, the more we're moving towards executive search, absolutely. But if we flip it to the other end of the spectrum and we're thinking about those kind of more generalist, specific geographical area that's being focused upon, well, now we're talking about community. So what's going on in the town? Like, what are those community events? What's the big local charity that needs loads of support that we can kind of show up and say, we're part of this community? You know, that's how we offer the value. It's about showing up and having a voice. And
what's sticking out to me with all of this? I keep getting this word. I don't know if it is even the best word to describe it, but it's being creative. And I'm not talking creative like artistically arty, right? These ideas, you know, people, I think sometimes with recruitment get very transactional, rigid about what recruitment is. I call people, I email, I fill jobs, I pick up clients. But there's so much, if you think about like building your desk as your own little business, that entrepreneurial mindset, that's probably the better word for it maybe, but thinking like, what else? You said what else? What else can I do to grow my candidate base? What else can I do to attract talent? What else? How can I do this? How can I do that? It's always thinking what else, and why? Who says you can't get involved with a local charity and run an event? It's like some people think like that's not my job as a recruitment consultant. Why not?
Yeah. Do you know how many recruiters are getting on stage at industry events and speaking?
Yeah.
Bugger all.
And podcasts. Loads of really good podcasts. It's like, be like, think entrepreneurially, if that's even a word. I'm not saying set your own place up, because not everybody wants that, but within your agency, that's what they want from you.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
want, it's about growth. They want you to be like that. Come with your ideas, because
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, they'll be like, oh my God, yes, this is amazing. Yeah, do it. But no one does that. Not
No.
really.
You've got to think, content that appeals is the content that answers the questions that keep people up at night. Now, I ask prospective clients, when I'm on a sales call, like one of the things is like, what's important to people in that sector you're serving right now? And they're like, oh, well, there's a shortage of talent and there's this and there's that. And it's like, no, that's what's important to you. Now, there might be some hiring managers out there that at 2 o'clock in the morning are waking up in a cold sweat thinking there's just not enough talent in the market. However, there's probably other more pressing issues going on in that business, in that industry, and they're the thing. That's what we need to create content around. How do we educate them? How do we ask the questions that allow them to have a voice?
Yeah.
How do we use our social media channels as a stage where those connections that you've got essentially become the panelists on your stage?
Yeah.
And it really is about that. And sometimes it is a freaking poll on LinkedIn. Polls work really, really nicely. You probably only want to do one every sort of 2 or 3 weeks. But if you ask a question that is very much industry focused, you get people responding, many of which will be either BD opportunities or passive candidates. And now you've got a temperature check. And you can see who's voted on what option. So if you're really smart about it, you can kind of put 3 options on your poll, and maybe one of those options is a qualifier, maybe one's a disqualifier. But you can now follow up in the DMs with all those people that have voted on that poll.
Yeah.
Vertical video on LinkedIn absolutely works amazingly. Those sort of PDF carousel posts, again, you probably only want to do one every couple of weeks of those. It's a experiment with the different content types to help you understand your audience. We're all visual, audio, or kinesthetic. Okay, visual people are going to respond to video more. Okay, those auditory people are, they're more likely to read something at length that is written with, and think about the language that you use. It's like, I'm really listening to the industry right now. That's auditory language. So we've got all these different content formats. Play with those to figure out what works for your audience, but the content itself, just think like what is the biggest, baddest, boldest way for me to deliver value to passive candidates.
I'm going to move us on to the next question, because I got so engrossed in that question, then I was like, shit, we've got another question to cover off, and we've got even less time now, and it's a good one. So, right, what would you say? We have touched on this a little bit, but what are the main mistakes to avoid? Because I'm sure you see this all the time when it comes to sort of talent attraction and socials.
Yeah. Okay. So hiding, not showing you. So like here's loads of, like we've got a day out wherever. Here's loads of photos of the place we're in, but we're not in the photos.
Yeah.
So I was in Oxford a couple of days ago, and it's like, let's say a recruiter goes to Oxford for a meeting, taking like Oxford Castle and the Westgate Centre and all this, like amazing. We could all fall in love with Oxford. Brilliant. No, we want them to fall in love with you. So let's see you. Let's see your face, the whites of your eyes. Let's hear your voice on a video. Yeah. So hiding is a big mistake. Obviously, lack of consistency is a given. How many days is it till freaking Christmas? Commit to posting something Monday to Friday, but commit to posting something every day to get things rolling. I'm in a position now, I don't need to post every single day. I don't. I'm active enough. I spend I'm active enough that I don't need to push the algorithm to that extent anymore. Go back 5 years, 7 years, absolutely I did. Now I don't need to do that because I've made social media work for me. Another mistake is forgetting to be part of the community. So we're building a community, but we need to
Be part of it.
be part of it as well. So I might not post every day, but I'm going through my feed and I'm seeing that, you know, Van's posted
engaging with
something and
stuff.
I'm leaving a comment underneath. It's like, so sometimes that's where the business isn't necessarily in the post that you put out there. It's in what's happening in the comments.
And also like your first connections, like the community piece. Like actually this is what I've got better at recently, is looking at not just the commenting and engaging on the feed, but actually dropping in people's inbox that like I'm connected to, we like each other's stuff, but we've no like actually creating a conversation out of it.
Yeah.
Like getting to know each other.
Taking it offline. Getting
Yeah.
on as we all did it. 2020, we were all desperately doing it. Here's a bit of LinkedIn engagement. All of a sudden, we've got a Zoom call booked in the diary. And it's like we've forgotten what we did in that year. And this comes back to hiding again. The last 2 years have been shit in recruitment, let's face it. Like we've all seen that graph from the REC where everything's taken a nosedive over the last 2 years. In 2020, it took a nosedive. And the people that are still in business today marketed their way out of it. And as a marketer, and maybe I'm going to rant a little bit now, it feels like we've forgotten the lessons. We've gone, oh yeah, well that was 2020, that was COVID, we had to do that. No, you should have always have been doing that. And you should definitely be doing that now.
Yeah.
You've got more resource now because you haven't got people on furlough. The time, like there were 24 hours in a day then, there are 24 hours in a day now. You made time for it then, make time for it now.
Yeah, I'll come back to you for a top tip in a minute, but before I do the roundup of the next show, that is exactly what I've been trying to do the last couple of weeks, because I launched my first business 2021 January. So we were still we were in lockdown in Wales anyway, it was still COVID. And I had a really good first year, and I'm like, I'm going to try and replicate that for this new agency. What was I doing that year? Just because it was lockdown and COVID doesn't mean I can't replicate it. What was I doing that was working? I'm going to come back to you. What will come up? I can't see who it is. I'm so sorry. It just says LinkedIn user. Loving everything you are saying, Christina. I'm guilty of so much of what you were mentioning. A lot of food for thought. Yeah, there is a lot of food for thought, which is why I'm going to come back for your top tip 2 seconds. But before I forget, and we run out of time, next show I've got on the 27th of November, normal time, 12:30, always at the same time. I've got Luke Pitkin, couldn't pronounce his name then, founder of Gig, coming on. Now, I actually recorded this with him yesterday because I'm at another TRN Rumble, so I can't do the next show live, but I haven't edited it. It'll just go on at that normal time. And we're talking about how to maximize your time as a solo recruiter. So any of you solos watching, we had such a good chat. I learned a lot from it. Like I was making notes the whole bloody time of all this stuff that Luke was telling me about. So definitely watch that show. Right, your top tip, which I love, show up, back you.
Yeah.
Talk to me more about this.
I say this at the end of all of my presentations, my stage talks, all that. Show up, back you. What I mean by that is don't hide. Like be there, be present, be part of the community, show up. And when I say back you, we have to have some self-belief. I don't care if you've been in recruitment 2 minutes or 20 years. Like back that you know what you're doing, back that you know that your sector. Don't be afraid to